good evening, good evening, and welcome on this Saturday evening. I was in the park walking, and I said, "Morning, morning, morning, good morning," and somebody said, "That's what they do in Barbados, in Bahamas. That's how people say good morning in Bahamas." I just want to say good evening and welcome, and want to thank you so much for joining me this evening. This evening, the 30th of August, 2025, from the UK, from the United Kingdom. And thank you for those joining me on Instagram, those joining me on Facebook, those joining me on YouTube, and those joining me on that great place called TikTok. I want to thank you so much tonight. My topic tonight is going to be like, what are the other political parties in the scheme of things leading up to the Jamaica election? And I'm sort of keeping a sort of emphasis on Jamaica. And but before I go any further, I'm going to bring in my colleague here. But I just want to say at the same time that I'm going to be having a guest from one of the political parties going to be coming on, and I'll say more about her later. But I'm going to bring in O'Neill as we get going. Hey O'Neill, what's up, buddy?
Hey, Silburn, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm cool in the
Yeah.
Malibu. uh,
Even I thought you were gonna say cool, cool Mandeville.
oh, cool Malibu. No, I say cool in the Malibu. Cool in the Malibu is I call it a state of being, a state of mind. You know what I'm trying to say?
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, so I get my mic here. It's a state of being. It's a state of mind. It's a mentality.
Yeah.
How are you doing over there in the land of Trump?
No, it's a good though. We have a long weekend. And the weather is really good for the next couple of days. So obviously everybody is doing their last bit of summer. So the beaches should be packed.
Yes.
Barbecues are gonna
Mm.
get going. So it's a long weekend. So everybody's just chilling. So I'm just chilling for the weekend. Nothing crazy.
I must say that since the whole Jamaica event has been happening, unless you're within a country, sometimes feel like there's things are not happening. I mean, I'm seeing
Mm.
some developments happening in America. I'm seeing
Yeah.
some lots of developments happening over there, and and in the UK. I don't know if you noticed, there's a big thing with flags. I don't know if you
I
noticed
know.
that.
I saw a blip. Maybe you could say what it is, but I saw something. There was a there's a tweet that was shared by Elon Musk that says
Oh,
"Save
Elon
Britain,"
shared it.
and it
Yes.
says "Save Britain," and all I saw something in Brighton, the beach area, about flags, but I didn't get to scroll down to see exactly what is going on there.
Well, it is called Operation Raising Colors. I made a mistake when I did a blog, I think, and I said Operation Raising Flags. But I did a trip down Iran, Herne Bay the other day,
Hmm.
and my family down there. And on our way down, I just keep seeing on the overpasses all these St. George's flag,
Hmm.
and wondering what this was until I sort of digged in, and my wife I told her to take a pictures of it coming back, and we take all these different pictures. And what it is, apparently, it is it has something to do with immigration, but
Mm.
British people are saying it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with patriotism. Some are
Mm.
saying it has to do with the boat people and so like that, but they say it's patriotism. And I did a video and I did a blog, and a lot of British people came in and they were almost having a go at me, and I said, "Is there something else?" And they said, "What do you mean something else? Nothing is wrong with our flags." And I said, "You're right. I have my Jamaican flag in my porch right here at the front."
Yeah.
There was this our flag, and but there's something going on, and I think there's a rising going, and that's to do with immigration, and many people are saying it's sort of racism or whatever like that. But at the end of the day, O'Neill, this is their country, and that's their flag, isn't it? It's like
Yeah,
America.
it's your flag. Everyone has affinity, just like you mentioned the Jamaican flag.
Mm,
That is probably one of the strongest and well visible flag. Anywhere you see that flag, it's a Jamaican flag. And everyone has affinity to something, right? And you have to be for something. So that's sort of what ties the country together. So, flag people sort of get around the flag we're going into the World Championship game. Everyone of those athletes who are representing their countries are gonna put their country's color on. So it means something. You know, obviously Jamaica is gonna be huge in the World Championship. And when any one of our Jamaican folks win, they're gonna put on, the Jamaican flag. Same thing with folks in the UK, right? If they win, they're gonna put the flag on. So it's interesting. Is it tied to that hotel thing? There's something around the hotel and some protest that's going on. Is it tied to that?
Yeah, yeah, it is tied to that, and actually there was an injunction or something like that, or whatever, that stopped the boat people from going to these hotels, but then
Mm,
a court has now overruled it. So
mm,
now they can go to these hotels or so like that, So there's a lot of things which is happening in the UK here as well about that. So Keir Starmer is under pressure,
mhm.
and British people are saying he's like a traitor to a certain extent, and police are taking down the flags, you know what I mean, taking down the British flag, you know what I'm
Uh,
trying to say. And then I saw a video with a Jamaican lady said, let us put out our Jamaican flag too. And then well, we love your Jamaican flag. We have no issue with your Jamaican. And and
uh,
I and I think in Trumpland there, I think Cory Booker, is it Cory Booker?
the senator from New Jersey.
Yes, yes. He was angry, spitting some things, some recent things there. I don't know what's going on there. I don't know if you.
I haven't paid much attention to him. Are most of these folks? He's known for Spartacus, they call him,
Yes,
because he had the longest sort of speech in the Senate. He beat Robert Byrd, who did the filibuster back in the civil rights days. But Cory Booker, I think what you're seeing is a lot of people are sort of juxtaposing for 2028.
yes,
So people are trying to put their voice out there so they could be known among the different Democratic Party establishment. So
yes,
because the midterm is next year, and
yes,
right after the midterm, you're gonna have a lot of folks start figuring out who's gonna be the Democratic candidate for president, and you're gonna see same thing on the Republican side. So a lot of people are starting to just in for position, and you see Newsom out of
News. Yeah, Newsom
California.
is he seem to be the star guy for Democrats so far? Is there anything is
Well,
there?
people are saying he's putting his voice out there. He's taking on Trump. You have Wes Moore out of Maryland. Wes Moore has Jamaican roots.
Yes,
Actually, his parents are Jamaican, and you see him from
yeah,
time to time speaking patois when he was
yeah,
campaigning for governor.
yeah,
So him and Trump is going at it right now over whether National Guard is needed in Baltimore, and back and
yeah.
forth. So it's an interesting time.
Corey, this said it's Jersey Heights. Welcome, Veronica Tate. Say, I've been here a while, just getting a notification. Hello to Belinda. Welcome to those on TikTok, and welcome to those on Instagram. Like the page as well. I want to say that tonight I was talking about what are the other political parties. As you know, the whole developments in Jamaica. We have now seen the end of the debates. Um, in a nutshell, I think my guess is going to come on about 10:15. But what's your nutshell? What's your views on the recent debates in a quick summary before we get our guests on?
I think it was an interesting debate, and the questionings from the sort of the press was sort of interesting.
Mm,
But overall, depending what political side you're on, one might say, you know, Mark started strong and sort of falter out. Wholeness started strong, weaker, and sort of at the end, there's a lot of commentary that says sort of Wholeness sort of win the debate. But you and I
mm,
have talked, it's not a winner or loser around Golden Heart or Prime Minister. It's a matter of was there enough information that was put out so the Jamaican people could assess what are the policy difference in a way that will impact turnout and impact someone vote. And I would say if you were an independent and you were an undecided, I don't believe that exchange give you any policy difference between the two candidates and the two parties.
Mm.
There's a lot of sort of mudslinging, if you will. There's a lot of talk about corruption, but there was not a lot of substance around what is the policy difference between the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party. And you didn't see that gotten teased out from the questioners. They focus a
Yes.
lot on the Integrity Commission. They focus a lot on sort of creating a jostle, and
Yes.
not focus on saying, asking question around, what is your policy around crime, for example, and then
Yes.
let the opposition go at it and say what they would do differently.
Yes.
And I thought the first question around the Integrity Commission was an interesting lead off to a debate,
Mm.
because you don't want to start negative. You want to sort of build up, talk about the policy difference, because I think there's a big, from a economic philosophy that could have teased out in terms of the Jamaica Labour Party, their sort of philosophy around, focus on the macroeconomics and the resiliency of the Jamaican economy. And once you focus on that, their theory is that the next sort of focus area would be in the area of the middle class. While if you read the manifesto
Yeah.
of the People's National Party, their thinking is that you need to focus on the middle class. So I think there could be a better job among the questioners to tease those things out. So they're substantive things. And I
Yes.
think in the end, I would say the Jamaican people didn't get as much information I could have had in 90 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, O'Neill, I've got Miss Kamisha Hendricks who is on, but before I bring on Miss Kamisha Hendricks, she's a representative from the United Independence Congress. We have had Mr. Joseph Patterson on the show a few times, and in the registration of the different parties, we found that there was a Jamaica Progressive Party who nominated 47 candidates. I was trying to get someone from there, but it didn't work out. United Independence Congress fielded 7 candidates, and independent candidates. There are about a total of 9 individuals running as independent across the constituencies as well. And for Miss Kamisha Hendricks, she's going to be running against Juliet Holness. She's going to be running against Juliet Holness. But before I do that, I'm just going to play something on the United Independence Congress, something that Joseph Patterson sent to me. I'll play it now.
A new series on UIC Liberty TV called 10 Points in 10 Days, where we will break down the UIC's 10-point plan to build a real new Jamaica, united, strong, and free. Jamaica, it's time to break free from our colonial chains and build a government that's truly ours. This is day 8 of our 10 Points in 10 Days series. Today we're tackling Point 8, Constitutional Reform, replacing the monarchy with a nonpartisan constitutional republic to prevent dictatorship and empower every Jamaican. In this video, we'll expose the problem, unveil UIC's game-changing plan, and show how this sets us free. Let's make history. Our government system is stuck in the past. Since 1962, we've been a constitutional monarchy, answering to a distant crown. The king's still our head of state, and colonial laws linger, holding us back. Partisan politics? It's a mess. Parties bicker, corruption festers, and power is concentrated in too few hands. This setup makes it easy for leaders to abuse power. No real checks and balances. The result? A system where loyalty to party trumps loyalty to people. Look at the scandals, the corruption. Our democracy deserves better. We're supposed to be an independent nation, so why are we still tied to a colonial relic? Here's the UIC vision. Constitutional reform. We're ditching the monarchy for a nonpartisan constitutional republic. But what does that mean? A government by the people, for the people. Here's how it works. First, we replace the monarchy with an elected president, accountable to you, not a crown. Second, we create 3 county vice presidents, 1 for each county, to ensure every region has a voice. Third, We swapped 63 partisan MPs for independent representatives and 21 partisan senators for 14 independent senators, one per parish. No party loyalty, just loyalty to Jamaica. And here's the kicker. Political campaigns will be 100% publicly funded. No big private donors, no backdoor deals, just fair, transparent elections. We'll write a new constitution with ironclad checks and balances to stop any dictator in their tracks. This is democracy done right. Liberty, equality, and accountability for all. What's the payoff? A government that works for you, not their campaign financiers. A nonpartisan republic means no more party tribalism. Leaders focus on solutions, not gimmicks and power grabs. Independent reps and senators answer to their parishes, not a political party. Public funding levels the playing field, so anyone with vision can run, not just the rich. This means real checks on power. No dictator can rise. Corruption gets crushed when loyalty is to the people, not parties. Your vote matters more. Your voice is heard louder. We're building a Jamaica where every citizen has equal rights, equal justice, and equal opportunity. Jamaica, it's time for us to own our future. Point 8. Need you to make this republic real. Donate as little as 1,000 Jamaican dollars or $10 at uicjamaica.com. Join the UIC, volunteer, and spread the word. Follow us at UIC Jamaica on all social platforms. This is day 8 of 10 points in 10 days. Tomorrow, we're exposing corruption and cleaning house. Like, subscribe, share, and let's build a real new Republic of Jamaica.
Apologies. Yeah, that is UIC. Well, let me bring up Miss Kamisha Hendricks. Kamisha Hendricks, she's actually Be Bold Jamaica Vote UIC. She's a United Independence Congress, St. Andrew East Rural. That's where she's going to be running in, and I'll just bring her in. Good afternoon, Kamisha Hendricks. How are you doing? Can you hear us?
I'm not too bad. Yes, I am hearing you.
How are you doing?
I'm not too bad. I'm good. And you?
Fantastic. We're good. We're good. O'Neill, I meet Kemesha, and
Kamisha, great to meet you.
yeah. So you're now the standard bearer for the UIC tonight. So therefore, all of Jamaica is now actually going to be saying, now what is UIC? And there's this election which is September the 3rd. We have sort of seen a manifesto, but tell us about yourself and what is it that you want to bring to Jamaica as well and UIC.
Okay, I'm Kamisha Hendricks from rural Bull Bay, St. Thomas, and that's where my constituency is. Okay, well, my point and bringing to Jamaica is I would love to see my my constituency developed. I mean, our young boys love football, so I would love to see them get a nice football field where they are comfortable to play football. You know, a happy, you know, nice, vibrant background for our kids and our boys. And I would also like to see our community center build up where kids can do homeworks and all of these things instead of to go to elsewhere. You know, it's more convenient that we have it in our community so that it is more convenient to other persons to, you know, use. You know, I would love to see Jamaica develop because we are not independent. We are depending on, you know, other sources. So I would love to see Jamaica, you know, get more recognition, meaning that using our own resources in our country.
Okay.
That is one of our main focus.
Yeah. And what would you say are some of maybe the tenets of separate and apart from the East Rural, but what I would say are some of the key strong points of United Independence Congress? if someone is going to be listening and say, let me hear what this party has to say, what would you be saying to them in regards to Jamaica per se? What is some of the key policies of United Independence Congress?
Well, our strong backbone is to stand up for the people, you know, to help reduce some of the rates of the housing, the land in Jamaica. We can own our own lands, by starting at a minimum wage, for people who are paying rent, squatting. We are trying to change that mentality of,
Mm.
people squatting. They can, pay a minimum of money to own their own properties. So we are endorsing that at the UIC, and also trying to make the education system a better place for our generation to come.
It's O'Neil, want to say anything?
Yeah, I just have a question. So, Kamisha, great to meet you. So, can you say a little bit more when you say use of independent resources? What does UIC mean by that?
Okay, more likely our housing infrastructure, our water system, our playing fields like football fields, our homework centers that boys do go to do homework, our girls, and all of that thing.
Yeah.
So it
So,
will be
so,
more convenient for them to get their homework done, things done in a more appropriate way to go back to school, so they don't have to miss out on their education.
so what you're asking is there needs to be more local development in the
Yes,
communities, right?
yes.
So if that's the focus, how would you sort of go about making that happen?
Well, we have some, you know, development in place that we're looking on, and if we happens to, go through with this election, win this election, we can go forward with what we have in our manifesto.
And when you say win this election, you only got seven. There was only 7 persons for the UIC.
Yes, that is. Yes, it is.
So when you say win, what is it that the
Well,
UIC? Sorry, go ahead. Yes. Mhm.
I wouldn't say win, but get the majority of votes that we want to to be a part of the parliamentarian, so that's what literally I mean.
Okay. Yeah. Veronica Tate was saying to be a bit more specific. So okay, what would you say then? Specific. Okay, you're going to be running up against the the Prime Minister's wife, Juliet Holness. And that's a great fit, I would say. But nothing is impossible. I would say nothing is impossible. And also against Mr. What, Peter King for the PNP.
Yeah.
Is it
Yes, it
Peter
is.
King for the PNP? What is it specifically that you are maybe bringing to that particular area that you say is a game changer or something of some level of difference to East Rural?
Okay, what would I bring? What new would I bring to the
Yeah,
table?
yeah. What difference would you bring there in that constituency?
Okay, I would bring to, develop the roads there, maintain the road system there, because the roads are very bad. Help to make more businesses so that people can go to work, have more incomes.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Or sort of income.
Yeah, so let me ask a question, Kamisha. So if I just go back to the debate that took place earlier this week, you heard both the opposition leader and the prime minister. The prime minister talking about the 70,000 houses that they've created across the different constituency, the roadworks that sort of they have started to sort of build out the interior networks and sort of make them better. What different? So they mentioned 70,000 houses, and you talked about sort of housing at the local level. Does the East Rural, where you're represented, did they benefit from any of those housing that the prime minister talked about?
No, not that I can recall.
Okay. So how would you, so if housing is one of your big platform and sort of land reform, what are your policies that you'd put in place to ensure that if you decide, if you, as you said, you want to go into parliament, if you're in parliament, what would you do specifically to address those areas that you just talked about?
Okay, persons who are squatting, like squatting on a land that they doesn't own, I would put in place that they come in with any land title that they have or any papers they have for the land, and they could have paid for the land little until it becomes theirs.
Okay.
Yes.
That is somewhat. I heard one of the policies of the People's National Party, whereby they say that if people can't afford to buy a property, what they'll do, they rent it, and then over the period of time, renting it, that's formulate like some sort of mortgage or in a way. Is that something that you guys are thinking of as well? Something of a similar nature?
Yes.
Mm, mm,
Something similar. Something
yeah,
similar.
yeah.
So one other question. So your video that was played before, um, there was something in there around preventing dictatorship. I think Jamaica is probably one of the most free when it comes to election. I think we're going through our 19th election, where you always have, regardless of which political party, one, you always have sort of fair change of government. Say more of what UIC is trying to stop around dictatorship, just given the history of Jamaican politics and the peaceful transfer of power between the two political parties.
Okay, say again.
In your video, one of the tenets is to prevent dictatorship in Jamaica. Jamaica's had 19 elections, and there has always been a peaceful transfer. So if the PNP wins, there's a transfer. Say more about the dictatorship that UIC is trying to stop in Jamaica.
Well, we are trying to stop the tribalism in Jamaica. We're trying to bring a more fair chance of people, being free of not, the two parties fighting against each other. So we'd want to see that, kind of mentality kind of stop. And we want our voice to be heard, more of UIC to be heard, because we think we didn't get a fair chance to debate on a lot of things that we want to do.
Okay. Um, okay. So what you're saying then is, in respect of the debates which concluded recently, you're saying the other minor parties should have had an opportunity to be able to be on the platform, maybe not directly with the prime minister and the opposition leader, but having a platform where you guys are able to speak and to share your views. That is what you're saying, isn't it?
Yes, that is it.
Yeah. But go on, Anil. Yeah.
No, I was gonna say with that, how is UIC polling on the ground? So if you just take your local area that you're representing, I assume you have gone door to door to knock and sort of put your message out there. How are you guys polling?
Okay, are we polling? Okay, we try to interact with the persons in our community and outside of our community, and to let them know that we are about bringing a change to, the community and also to Jamaica.
How are you doing that? Are you doing town halls? Are you knocking on doors? How are you bringing the message out?
Yeah, okay. We knock on doors and we also go out on the road to, you know, make other persons know.
Okay.
Like we
Okay.
knock on doors, like go around and letting persons know that, we have a third party and we are, making a change here. So we
Mm,
do that by telling everybody in our neighborhood and persons outside of our neighborhood as well.
okay. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And but before we go, what would you say are maybe what's the long term vision for UIC, especially with Jamaica? And if you're seeing that the two party system sort of hold things in a way, how do you? Okay, let's do this first. How do you going to sort of go beyond the two party system and navigating to reach to the people? Because sometimes we can't sometimes wait for those above us to give us the opportunity, but we have to navigate and get down to the people. How do you forecast doing that? Because UIC is not there for the short term, you guys are there for the long run. How do you see that then? How do you see yourself reaching the people, getting to the people?
Okay, we do that on our platform, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. So we showcase what we are about in those platform
I want to
through
I want
other
to
people.
yeah, I want to say this as well, that with the advent of TikTok on these social media platform, that is one aspect. But I'm talking about, like, if you notice what the prime minister is doing and those guys are doing, they're going all over the country, touching flesh, talking to people one to one. Um, I see the advent of TikTok on social media as amplifying something which is already there. How are we always UIC wanting to touch base with the people directly? Because in Jamaica, based on how Jamaica dynamic is, that's where the power base is, isn't it, O'Neill?
Yes, how you're interacting daily with the folks to get your message out.
Okay, well, we don't have enough funds to reach all the areas, but we are working on it.
Mm.
Yeah, to go, get drive to go to all the parishes, but we are working on it.
Yes, yes. Okay. Yeah, because I was looking at some of the policies of UIC, and it's very clear. They talk about anti-corruption crime, foreign policy, political philosophy, individual rights. UIC emphasizing protecting rights, life, liberty, and property. The agenda presents a significant shift from Jamaica traditional party politics, prioritizing bold constitution reform, strong civil liberties. But I guess, Kamisha, I guess everything starts with somewhere, and it is much it is commendable that seven persons have put themselves forward for office, and that is a significant thing. The other party says 49, you guys say seven. You never tell. If anything happens, you guys become a game changer.
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes. Any last word you want to say, Kamisha?
Yes, I just want to say to everybody that choose UIC. You can give us a chance because you never know what could change Jamaica. Bringing in a new party, a third party, could just might as well give you what you really want. a
Mm.
change, because we have two political parties, back in the days, and I mean, they promise, 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 and nothing behind the promises. So I mean, there's always something good when change come. It's always
Fantastic,
good to have a change.
fantastic, fantastic. O'Neill, any word, anything?
No, well, good luck on the election
Mm.
coming up next week. So we'll see on the fourth how you guys fared among the other political parties. So good
Yes.
luck.
And it's commendable for you guys and Joseph and Chase Neal, and I think Chase Neal is running in St. Mary. I don't know if you know the different areas which they're all running, the 7 persons. Um, but that's okay. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Kamisha. It was a pleasure having you, and thank you for making yourself available on behalf of UIC. Okay.
Yes, sir. It's my
Thank you.
pleasure to be here as well.
Mm.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you. Bye bye. Cheers.
Bye bye.
Yes, Anil. Um, I think one of the dynamics of third parties, what we are seeing is that, you know I think the PNP and the JLP have dug a deep well over the years, and anybody want to do anything will have to dig a deeper well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's no different than in the UK. You have the conservative, right? You have two sort of
Mm,
Nick Clegg came in a couple of years back. In the US, you have the Democrats and the Republican. But there's sort of a playbook, if you remember Ross Perot that got, I think, 20% of the vote, right?
yes.
I think and we sort of said this to Mr. Patterson when we last spoke with him, that if you want to convince the Jamaican people to change, you have to have a message that is going to resonate and say what you will do different than the current two political parties. Or if you're running against a two political party in a particular constituency, what is your message, right?
Yeah.
What is your message to convince folks that they need to change, and change for what, right? So, the Kamisha talk about a need for change, and what is that the folks really want, right? That is something that any persons or political party that aspire to represent the Jamaican people have to convince the Jamaican people that a third party is viable. I think NDM probably got the closest with
Mm,
back then with Golden, but Golden is a very charismatic person, right? Eventually they merged the two parties back together, but it has to be where you're willing to articulate your points and convince people. And this
mm,
becomes where it's local, it's on the ground, and you have to be able to articulate your policies and convince people to vote for you. Because you don't have to win a particular constituency. If you show up in a way, right?
mm,
We're seeing that in the UK now with Nigel
mm,
Farage, where he has focused on a couple particular issues. And I think it was last week or week before, where there's an MP from, I don't remember which party now, move over to his party. And the polling, if it's accurate, is saying he's probably more popular than the current administration. So you have to
yeah.
be able to figure out how to seize the message, and then think about how you convince the people and take on issues, but you have to provide solutions. So it would
And,
be
and,
interesting.
mm, and that's a good point when you talk about when we marry and we look at the United Kingdom as to what happened there last year, just before this time. Nobody knew of the reform that much. It was just a little drip, drip, drip. But now
Mm-hmm.
the reform, right now, they say if an election is held, reform more than likely would become
Yeah.
maybe the prime minister or
Yes.
the bigger party, because the conservative is down.
Hmm.
Labour is now like two tier stammer, or whatever like that.
Hmm.
But reform is very direct with a message,
Hmm.
and they've seized the gap, and they're hammering that message, that bit about British. We can't take this rubbishness, and lots of people are saying yes, yes, yes,
Yeah,
because the indigenous British people are the majority in this country, no matter what, at the same time. So any third party that comes in will have to seize and have a message that inspires.
exactly.
You got to inspire the people.
And you have to have leaders that are
Mm,
inspiring,
mm,
right? You have to be able to go door to door in the town hall, in the town square, right? You have to be able to go, whether you have a microphone or whether you have a 500 or 1,000.
mm,
You could go any one of these town square to go put your message out. So I think it's a matter of, to your point, what issues are you going to focus on that people
mm,
care about, that you're able to articulate your policy prescription, and what is it that you're going to do different? Saying, something around like dictatorship, you're going to prevent Jamaica. Jamaica is probably one of the freest election, right? 19, I think, since independence, and it was
mm,
always a peaceful transfer of power. So, you know, you're focusing on something that is gonna hit decade, and the normal man in the street that you're trying to convince, that's not the issue they're focused on, right?
yeah.
Focus on the what they call the kitchen table issues, um, and be able to articulate those.
I'm seeing two things here. Brenda Lee Green on TikTok said, "I'm in Canada. They formed a new party called the Green Party." And I mean, Veronica Tate is saying a Green Party was formed is here in the States. Is there a Green Party in the States as well, isn't it?
Yeah, there's been a green
And we got a Green Party here in the UK.
Yeah, there's been a Green Party. What's his name? He's got his name now. If you remember Bush and Gore, what's his name? I can't remember his name. But the Green Party normal get 3-4%. And I think the in Florida with Bush v. Gore, I think he got 3.5, 4%. And there are historical folks that said, had you split that, not
Mm,
Rossborough got about 19%, but there's another, I forgot his name, something, maybe not Buchanan.
mm,
I'll find his name, but he always run. It's like Gene Sheehan here, similar, where folks will run, they'll get 1-2% of the vote, and people always say they're spoilers,
mm.
but we do have a Green Party here.
Well, while we're here and we're looking at the Jamaica and the pending election on September the 3rd, there's one thing that keep coming up a lot, and today I was even on TikTok, and it became a very strong factor, whereby many persons make these very strong allegations, and they assign words to the prime minister, which are very, slanderous. I would say defamatory to a certain extent, calling him these names without these things being proven. And I had to really say, all man, everyone is innocent until proven guilty. Whether he put it this way, it is like somebody say, well, if you have a man and him working with you, and all of a sudden you miss some money and you see the person driving expensive cars, all you're gonna do is put two and two together. That doesn't mean to
Mhm.
say it's four.
I know. But the interesting thing, I went back and did some reading. If you sort of look at it's probably one of the first you've seen the whole narrative of corruption has been so front and center.
Mm,
And I went back and looked at when Peter Phillips was the president of the PNP, and when Portia Muller, you always have dabbles and drips around it, but it was never front and center. And the interesting thing, you could look at when the new opposition leader, that became a focal point. And to your point, if you go back to the debate, it started the debate. And even to the point where I think the opposition mentioned the 28 bank accounts. But
mm,
there was a report that came, I think, through the courts that says no, he doesn't have 28 bank accounts. He has 8 is just that over a period of time, bank accounts that have been closed. But the fact that that was repeated again, it
Mm,
just tells you it's a narrative is to saying this person or that person is corrupt. But to your point, there's no evidence that has been brought to bear that says that's the case. And if anything, I think the prime minister, because I didn't know a lot of things about the prime minister. I didn't know that he started a taxi company. I didn't know, I knew he grew up in Spanish Town, right? I didn't
mm,
know he grew up in a national housing scheme house, right? I didn't know all of that until he started putting it out there. And
mm.
I think he's gonna, in my opinion, I think he's gonna resonate more with a lot of folks who say, hold on, I didn't realize he was one of us, meaning he came from living in a two-room house in Spanish Town, used to take taxi to school, right? He didn't come from means, but somehow that was a narrative he sort of spoke of in regularity, unless you really knew about it. Because I didn't know until he started talking about it this time.
Mm.
Vice is, you see the narrative where folks are saying, hey, they're using the term tapanaris. I've never heard the term tapanaris so much um, in the last 2 years, right? So remind me again, tapanaris is like your big timer, right? You have everything, you have the money, right?
Tapanaris, I said, upper north of something, I don't
So it's one of those things where it takes away from the debate around policy,
yeah,
right? It takes away from, you putting out there, what is it that you will do different? So you have two philosophy from a political perspective where the
mm,
Jamaica Labour Party have said, we are going to focus on the macroeconomics and the resiliency of the Jamaican economy. And we have
yeah,
done that over the last 10 years. And even within COVID, they were able to continue and they had barrel. You didn't see the big GDP dip. So they're saying,
mm,
hey, we're planting the seed, but we had to fix the fiscal house first.
yes,
And now that it has taken us, you call it 10 years, even though you have about 2.5 years in there with COVID,
yes,
now we are on the path where we're going to focus on the next phase of our plan, which is reduce poverty even more, right? And then new business environment, investment, etc. While on the oppositional side, if you read their manifesto, their philosophy is, you know, the government need to intervene a little bit more, right? More
yes,
social economics policy, right? So, but when you hear the debates, that wasn't teased out to say what would you do differently. So
mm,
that's the two things. So, the PNP has been good of, sort of talking about the emotional connection to the middle class, saying, hey, you've been left behind. And I think the
mm.
JLP is saying we had to fix the mess of 18 years before, right? So now the question becomes, who turns out the most? Is it the folks who said, yes, you have to put in place the macroeconomic stabilities in order to do the other things, right?
Well,
And even, right,
mm,
so those are some of the things that I think didn't get teased out in the debate, and I think get lost when folks start,
back and
leveling
forth.
this accusation,
Mm.
and you get the back and forth.
Well, as someone said on TikTok, there are many people with two taxes and they don't make 400 billion in a few years where they did. Uh, Someone said on here is that, do you think Andrew is a Trump wannabe? What is a Trump wannabe?
Yeah, I don't know what that means. But
Elaborate on that a bit, Veronica, if you don't mind.
yeah, but if you look at, and I just follow what the Supreme Court put out there, right? The Supreme Court, there's a lot of things that says $400 million, et cetera, et cetera. But if we believe the Supreme Court, that says the guy is worth what, 160 million Jamaican dollars, which is equivalent to about $1 million US. That's what the court says. I believe that report came out and said he's worth. Um, and that's over 2 decades since he came into government. Um, I, I don't know what the Trumpian means. I don't. Sometimes we try to conflate the Jamaican culture with the British or the American culture.
Yeah.
I think, there's a lot of people that talk about Manly Siaga and the different approach they took. Um, I don't see anything Trump-like in 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 Andrew, the Prime Minister. I think what you've seen, in my opinion, Silburn, is that there is more in the public than before, meaning everyone is a citizen journalist, right? So if you go back to Manly Siaga time, you didn't have smartphones, you didn't have social medias, right? So
Mm.
therefore, now all the decisions that are being made, you're seeing it. I was listening to something where someone was talking about there was a political meeting where some guy came and put $100,000 and say, hey, we're going to give it to one political party. I didn't know that until you start reading and hear people. Whether that's true or not, we don't know. But I don't see someone who would have to explain what it means by Trumpian strongman. I just don't see that coming out of a Jamaican culture.
Mm.
And I haven't seen that where the current prime minister is trying to be like Trump.
Yeah. If we're going to look at the recent debates and look at some of the things which were missing, like I said, there was the missing element of tourism, the missing element of education, and the missing
Mhm.
element of health. These bits wasn't picked up, and of course, as we all know, that 90 minutes wasn't able to deliver such, and hence the reason why I said it is unfortunate that within the different consequences there's not like some hustings which are happening whereby a church, civil society, Rotary Club, Kiwanis sort of organize some sort of sessions and you invite the different. So therefore, it is not something which is organized by any of the political parties, but by civil society. And you invite the JLP, invite the PNP, invite if there's an independent there in that area. So, for instance, it is in East Rural, for argument's sake, you'd invite Kamisha to say what her visions are, what is their plan, and go through the manifesto and say, how does that manifesto work within that particular area? So I think in the future, and I think it is very unfortunate, they really need for that time of knowing when an election is, because somehow you feel like it is rushed and you feel like people didn't get time to navigate the manifesto. But at the same time, many people say, well, nothing changes. People are not going to be changing that much. Do you think people views are changed or influenced by the recent debates? Anil, what do you think? What do people think
Uh,
about that?
I my perspective on it, debates can change, but in this case, I don't believe if you are entrenched in one political party or the other, you're gonna vote no matter what. There are people in Jamaica that vote one party or other because my great grandfather voted for Bustamante or
Mm,
Manley, right?
mm,
So they're gonna vote. You're gonna have these diehard. It's the same thing. It's not just a Jamaican thing. There are a certain percentage that will vote for one party regardless. Now, the independence is where it's going to be interesting to see what the business community sort of what's their position, and the security forces and all the election workers voted on Friday. So it'll be interesting to see but I doubt it changed any mind, Silburn, at all.
mm,
I could be wrong, but I don't think the debate this week changed any perspective or any mindset at all. I think what will is the folks who are actually reading and listening and figuring out is their interests are going to be served by one or the other. And
yes.
I must say, you have two leaders, and this is where people will disagree with me. You have two leaders that in their mind, they care about the trajectory of Jamaica. You got to give them that. They're putting
Mm.
themselves in the town square. They want the best for Jamaica. Let's argue that. The way you get there is the difference, right? That's the thing.
You mean let's agree on that. Let's agree on
Correct.
that. The,
Let's agree that the two men wants to. You've seen it in their message, and they wouldn't put themselves in the public square if they didn't
mm,
believe that they could do something different for the Jamaican people. So
mm,
let's agree on that. Now, how you get there is where the philosophies sort of divert. I've said it before. Michael Manley, you know, governed decades ago when it was total different. A lot of people bring up Michael Manley or Edward Siaga. They're a historical figure in the political landscape in Jamaica, but it's a
yes.
different era that we live in today. And therefore you have to articulate why. So I I'm one that says, debates are not going to change. It's the thing that actually changed people's mindset is when you're interacting one on one. I remember Andrew did something that was super interesting when he beat Portia Simpson. There was a PMP stronghold
Mm,
somewhere. I don't remember if it was Portland or Westmoreland. I remember,
yes.
but there was no bridge to go over wherever. And for decades, no politician has ever gone over there. And he rolled up his pants foot and crossed the river. Now that changed mindset, right? That
Mm,
changed people mindset because if they say, hold on, Silburn is crossing the river,
yeah.
walking barefoot to
Yeah.
come see what our plights are, that changed the perspective of a particular voter, right? So
Mm,
I think you're going to see that. You and I have talked about this.
mm,
The Jamaica Labour Party has 49 seats. The PNP has 14 seats.
yeah.
So the Jamaica Labour Party can afford to lose 13 seats, I think, and still maintain power,
Mm,
right? The PNP has to flip a number of seats. So they have a high bar to climb, and then you sort of look at it from a turnout perspective. Hopefully, there's more turnout now than before,
mm,
and you'll see what happened. But you're not going to convince the people who are on one side are there is the
mm,
folks who are independent and the young people. I think the young people are going to play a big role in it. But the interesting thing, I've been talking to some young people, and a lot of them they have formed their opinion of who they're voting for already.
it is very interesting. I was reading something someone wrote. They said, I have great respect for those who offer themselves for political
Yeah.
office. They said, at one point, a person said, I too had similar aspirations, yet I find it difficult to accept that in choosing to serve my country, especially when nearly 70% of my classmates are overseas pursuing greener pasture. I would have to endure such uh, vitriol and persecution just to make it to Gordon House. Foreign begging us to come to our country, carrying us through the fire to prove our worthiness to serve. Foreigners begging us to come to our country, carrying us. My respect goes out to all politicians who dedicate themselves to this
Yeah.
nation.
No,
Which is the point which you mentioned there, that for people running, but isn't it that at the same time that somebody said what somebody said there? I personally think the time spent on the debates were not enough to voice opinions on the people of Jamaica. I think, let me hear this one. Not to put anyone down, but some of the people are not voting on the policies, but out of party loyalty.
correct. Correct.
Yeah,
I don't know if that was Belinda.
that that is Vernica. Is it Vernica
Yeah,
said that?
Vernica. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. I know people because I was in Jamaica. I know people who, if you just look at their plight, right, is what I mentioned before, Silver. They'll never vote one party or the other because they have said, my great grandfather voted this party, my mother, my father. Therefore, they cannot see them voting any other way. They don't say, let
Mm,
me think about how my life is going to change.
mm,
And they just vote because, as we thought, it's a tribalism, right? And if you live in a particular constituency, everybody else vote one way and you just follow the herd.
Mm,
So it's hard for you to change some of these constituency, right? Sorry, we're talking about, for example, I think it is a Westmoreland seat that the former Prime Minister PJ Patterson had. The JLP won there for the first time in decades, the last
mm,
time. And I forgot who the what's his name? Robinson, I think, is running there.
mm.
Right. But the guy who lost by 10 seats, 10 votes the last time, right?
Yes.
Now, the person who, according to the article that where he ran before, he lost by 2,000 votes. So now you're taking a very safe seat that used to be Patterson for years and you're bringing someone in. So it'd be interesting to see how those things change because Portland is a perfect example where I think it's East Portland was PMP strong for 30 plus years. And then
Mm,
Anne Marie Vaz came in and took that seat, and
yes.
apparently the
Yes.
Vaz have locked down Portland. So it's an interesting dynamic. To your point, is there's a big tribalism around politics in Jamaica that has not changed. Um,
It is going to be very interesting. I mean, the outcome of this election is going to be very, very analytical, that people have to look at it in many different ways. There was Don Anderson was talking about that the 2020 elections with the seats that went to the JLP as well. He said some of these seats were like safe PNP seats, if anything like that. Well, and I'm not really into the safe things, but
mhm,
likewise in the UK, if I'm going to make a juxtapose, when those seats went to Boris Johnson for Brexit, and they were loaned to Boris Johnson because of Brexit, they were
mhm,
expecting a certain delivery. Now that level of delivery did not take place, and it's the reason why those seats went back to Labour
mhm,
in the recent elections, went back to Labour in the recent elections. And so what's the word is it? It's an aberration, because during the 2020 election, what transpired there was the fact that a lot of people didn't turn out because of COVID. And you
mhm,
had 708,000 people turn out, if my figures are right in my head. 400 and so thousand for the PNP, 300 and so
mhm,
thousand for the JLP, and 37%. It is so interesting. I'm believing and I'm hoping that there's a 60% turnout, and that is more saying that Jamaicans need to be very proactive and take this very serious. And I made a statement that said, if you guys come below 40%, I'm going to start campaign for Australia style voting. Which,
uh,
you know what Australia style you want what Australia style voting is? You're forced, you get locked up. You're fine.
if you don't vote. I think it's going to be down to the young people. So if here's what I think, maybe I don't know how Dan Anderson would answer this question, but
Mm,
if you were 10 years old when the JLP came into power,
yes.
you'd be what, 18 now, right? Almost
Mm,
21, actually. They're give 10, yeah. So almost 2021, right?
yes.
What you have seen over the last 10 years is infrastructure development. It's
Mm,
roads being built, it's new highways, right? So for you who, just come at age where you're voting for the first time, you've seen tangible things in front of you,
uh,
right? Now, how does that impact your vote? It's going to be interesting. But I think the people who are going to tip this election one way or the other is whether the young people is going to turn out for one party or the other. I Someone sent me this. There was a big meetup group online, and people are talking about who they were going to vote for. And the interesting thing, there was a very passionate voices talking about the fact that they have seen major developments in their lifetime,
mm.
right? It's not nostalgic
Hey,
to
Gary.
say, this. One person said, I don't even know who Michael Manley is, one of the
Mm,
potential voters, right?
mm,
And that is, I believe, Silburn is the difference. And I think those are the quiet voters that people are not paying a lot of attention to.
A
because they have
silent majority.
silent majority. So it's
Yes.
going to be interesting, but it's going to be close. You could see where, a case of, 33, whatever. It's not going to be a blowout like the last time. I think it's going to be much closer.
Close to either ways.
Yes.
Mm. Now, how do you think that Jamaicans will take this particular outcome of this election? Um, who do you think will feel it more? If the JLP loses or the PNP win, who will it have an impact more on, if anything, or in a sense of feeling,
I think
it will
that I
affect
think
them more? Yeah.
I think the PNP. I think if
Mm,
the PNP loses, um, I think it's a bigger blow to the party than anything else.
mm,
I think from a Jamaica Labour Party perspective, I
yes.
think Andrew will continue to be the leader of the Jamaica Labour Party,
If they
right?
win,
If they win or lose, if they win
I
or
think so.
lose,
I think
yeah,
I
I
think
think
in standard terms, well, I guess in maybe it's Jamaica. In normally, but I guess maybe Jamaica is different. There's always a change if someone loses, if anything, like,
no, I think with
but
Andrew,
maybe not Jamaica. Yeah,
yeah, because he's what Andrew's like 55, 54.
yeah. Andrew's young. Yeah,
Yeah, so he's quite young. So I think for him, he has a belief that he has a vision for Jamaica, right? That's his belief. He believed that his learned experience from how he grew up seeing his mother, he has a vision for Jamaica. I
yes,
think the People's National Party, if Mark doesn't win, I think you're going to have more turmoil in the PNP than the Jamaica Labour Party, because I think you're going to have a lot of people jockeying for the leadership position. You're probably going to have Damon Crawford. You're going to have other folks that says, "Hold on, we need a new leader." Right. So a lot of folks are going to challenge because remember, Lisa Hanna, I think it was lost by about what 300. It was about 1400. It
mm.
wasn't that far apart. So I could see where if the PMP wins, it's going to be much more soul searching, and people are
If
going to
the
be
PNP
caught
loses,
loses,
yeah,
and I could see people calling for Mark to step down as the leader.
mm.
Now the question becomes who. On the JLP side, if they lose, you could because Tufton is yeah, Tufton is good. You could see Tufton want to be, someone, in the party. You could see Tufton. You could see the foreign secretary. You could see she
Kamina,
start Kamina. You could see
she will have to
she
get a
on
seat, if anything, isn't it?
right,
She's a
exactly. So
senator.
you
Yeah,
could right. So on both sides, but I think the JLP has more stability just because they've been in the ruling government for the last 10
9 years,
years.
10 years.
And
Yeah,
yeah, and you have seen more instability in the PMP. Because remember, you had Peter Phillips. Before that, Peter Phillips has challenged Portia Simpson, if you remember. Then you had the whole thing with Mark and Lisa, right? So I think, depending on who win, but I could be wrong, but I believe if the PMP loses this election, there's more turmoil in the PMP than the JLP.
someone said that for Chris Tufton that he is damaged. Uh, that's why he hid from the healthcare debate. Uh, but there wasn't any healthcare debate before, or maybe that was a social
Yeah,
concern.
yeah,
But I do recall that Jamaica has a very short memory because with the whole PJ Patterson time as well,
yeah.
he said, "I
I'll be
shall
back.
return. I'll be
I'll be
back."
back. The
You know,
Petrojam scandal.
yeah. Uh,
Yeah, I don't know. This is where, you know, I look at people and I look at what they do, and Tufton impresses me. Not because he's JLP or PMP. He's just an impressive person. I think he has done a really. Is there a lot of work to be done? I think he has done the best he could around healthcare, and building new hospitals, etc. And he even said it himself because someone asked a question that there's a lot more work to be done. in the healthcare sector and the deliver healthcare in Jamaica, but you could see the improvement, right? I remember when people that I know was in hospital, you have to bring syringes, and it may be still the same case, but I believe he has done a decent job in his portfolio as health minister.
Well, that's going to be a controversial one with many people talking about how the health system is, and this is
Lisa,
one,
so-
and this is one. Yeah, somebody said Lisa, I know, and makes more money than being a party lawyer. Sorry, let's before I go into that bit, let me just remember that bit. Lisa Hannah, do you think she's really out, or she just out because she lost?
no, I don't know what's going on with Lisa.
I still don't know. I
And
can't put my finger on it
it's
as well.
Lisa, because someone, I don't know how true this is, that um they own a lot of the Popeyes and
Yeah, Burger
right,
King and those
Burger King
franchise
and stuff like
Kentucky.
the
Yeah,
franchise and stuff like that. So
Lake. Yeah,
he's not, she's not wanted for money. Um, the
yeah.
thing that has not materialized itself, and I've not looked at her, is she
Mm.
hasn't articulated why she left. They're behind the scene that says, to your point, that is because she lost, because of how she was treated. Um, but I think she could be someone who aspire, to political office. But I also think, to your point, politics could be a blood sport.
Mm.
And I think for her, tasting, going up against for the party leadership, I think she saw something that said, you know what, this is not the
It's not
arena
for
I
me.
want. It's not for me at all.
Mm.
And I could serve the Jamaican people in a different way, because it's sort of what you and I have talked about. You know, to make changes to the Jamaican people and help, you don't have to be a politician. There's many different ways for you to
And
serve the Jamaican
and
people.
and that's the reason why I'm not a stickler of what happened to Mark Golding and Matthew Samuda, because your navel string should not be tied in politics so much that you get rid of something which is so crucial, like your birthright, your citizenship, and all those sort of things, because
Yeah.
you can just live it for 3 years. But yeah, you know, loyalty is not by what some people say. By you got to show loyalty to one. I mean, I'm very loyal to Jamaica, and I'm here in the UK. Many people people call me Ochi man. Everywhere they say Mr. I got my Nigerian friend. They say Mr. Jamaica. That's what they call me. They call me Mr. Jamaica. You
Mhm.
know. Um, and I've got two passports, and I've got two British citizenship, and a British and a Jamaican. Does that mean to say that I'm not loyal? Loyalty, I don't think that's how loyalty comes into play. In a
No,
sense.
I don't think so. I met a lady in Jamaica. She's
Mm,
been in Jamaica for 25 years. She came
yeah.
from Switzerland, and you couldn't tell that she wasn't born in Jamaica,
Yes.
right? This you could tell this woman is genuinely her affinity to Jamaica and want to see Jamaica, right? And she came here 20 something years in Jamaica
Yes.
and never went back, right? She's her Jamaican passport, she's her Jamaican citizenship, right? But to your point, I think there are sort of people talk about the opposition leader. There was a question, you know, and I don't know if this is true, but it seemed it was insinuated that he didn't have a Jamaican passport until he was in his 40s,
Mm,
which is super interesting. Because to your point, you live in the UK and you're Jamaican by birth. You have, UK citizenship, but you're allowed to have both. So the
mm,
question becomes, why didn't I have both passports? Right? I'm born in Jamaica. I can't have a Jamaican passport for various reasons. But
mm.
the thing that struck me the most was, if you were born in Jamaica and Jamaica is everything to you, why not have the passport?
Yeah.
Right? Because you could have two.
Yeah.
You could have two, right? So
Yes.
it was an interesting piece that I think a lot of Jamaicans will look at it. And the thing is that when it came out, you didn't need a polling to say give it up. right?
Mm,
You just give it up. It's like, okay, I
mm,
don't need to go take a poll to go see that. So I think if people who are staunch, Jamaican, you call it nationalists, will see that and say, hold on,
mm.
why, right? And ask the question. But, is go back, you assume positive intent,
Yes.
and you assume that, look, there's a reason and a rationale that he did that. And he just have to demonstrate to the Jamaican people, that, he is gonna do everything in his power to make the country a better place. Because that's
And
what it's all about in the
yeah.
end.
And to what someone said on TikTok, which is a good point, being only Jamaican and no other nationality shows commitment to the sovereign interests of Jamaica, and
Hmm.
of course, aiming for the highest echelons of office. Of
Hmm.
course, one need to demonstrate certain things, because if I'm aiming for, and if I aim for certain echelons of office in the UK, and my opponents seize on the fact that I got dual national, they're going to use it against me.
Of course, they're good.
Even
But
though even though it's legal, but
yeah,
they say, hey,
dual loyalty. But the former prime minister Patterson, I think, was on some forum, and
yeah,
he made the point that he doesn't understand why folks didn't give it up, because he said, look, there are certain sensitive positions in Jamaica that should never be to someone that has dual nationality. He sort
yes,
of came out because he's like, I think he talked about the Jamaica Defense Force, etc., etc.,
yes, it was at that
right?
forum, wasn't it? I remember he said
Yeah,
it. He said
yeah, he's
it's legal. However, you know,
yes. He was
yeah,
saying, he make the point
mm,
that there are certain things, that there are certain positions, sensitive positions, he call it, that should
yes,
never go to a dual citizen. And it's the
mm,
same thing. Like here in the US, right? I cannot be the vice president, right? I can't be a vice president of a candidate, and I could never be president of the United States.
mm,
No, my
mm,
kids can, but I cannot, right? If you were born in a different country, you could never be the president of the US. You could be a governor, but you
like like
cannot
like
be,
like Schwarzenegger.
yeah, like Schwarzenegger, you could be a
Mm.
congressman, you could be a senator, but you cannot be a president or a vice president, right?
And that's why they were pushing that narrative about Obama at the time, wasn't it?
Correct, correct. Because
Yeah.
people, or they try to do it for Kamala to say she was born in Canada. Well, she
Oh
she
yes.
she spent a lot of time in Canada, but that's not where she was born. But I think, you know, the Jamaican people is gonna have to choose on the third,
Mm,
and they're gonna have to choose where they want Jamaica to go. Because I believe, my opinion, this election is a very consequential election for Jamaica.
yes.
I think one of the most consequential one. The economic things will continue, but it's the policies that you're going to put in place that will continue the trajectory that Jamaica is on.
Mm,
And if you just go back 50 years, right? You go back to the 70s, the oil shock that impacted Jamaica. You go back to the structural adjustment program. Our mining sector got decimated, right? And you go back to the hurricanes, Gilbert, right, and all these different natural disasters that
yeah.
hit Jamaica, and then you have some financial crisis. You have
Mm,
2008. Jamaica didn't weather these crises very well. They
mm,
have huge contraction. If you look at GDP growth, at some point it was less than 1%, right? So now, 10 years ago, Jamaica was 147 to debt to GDP, right? You have the IMF and others that says, if you look at the 10-year trajectory, is one of the best
yes.
reduction in
Chopper.
debt to GDP in a long time that they have seen.
Mm,
So the question is, who's going to build on that? Because it's sort of the sacrifices you make in the short term for long-term gain.
yeah.
So the question becomes, are there enough people in Jamaica that says, yes, the sacrifice, because this is sort of the narrative, the sacrifice of focusing on the macroeconomic policies at the sort of the middle class, so to speak,
Yes.
was it worth it? Or the other aspect to say, we have to focus on this other part of the equation. So it's going to be interesting to see what
Yeah.
happens next week.
And what somebody says, Andrew has done a good job, and I'm praying whoever wins continues that progress. And I sense something though, that say for the issues regarding the integrity factor, because if you notice, that is the strong area where they come out against Mr. Wholeness. It seemed like the trajectory of the economic and the crime factor, it is one of a positive nature. And I was saying that if it was like the UK, for argument's sake, with all those sort of things hanging over the Prime Minister's head, likewise Boris Johnson, there would have been a motion of no confidence pushed by the same backbenchers of the same party.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
you could have had that, but
and then
I
and then what would happen is that the likes of a Christopherson could come in, for argument's
yeah,
sake,
yeah,
and then that would separate the
the
factors that
the
bring the party
noise.
into disrepute.
Yeah, the noise around it. But if I
Yeah.
were the prime minister, and obviously, I'm not an advisor or
Mm,
it's someone that I know personally, but if I were him, the current prime minister, and I win another term, for the next 5 years, just put all the stuff in blind trust. So because here in the US, you put stuff in blind trust, right? If you're the
yeah.
president, or you put stuff in blind trust, appoint someone other than a family member to run your companies,
Mm,
and separate yourself from that. So
yeah.
if there's no noise around that you're using your position
Yeah.
for gain, just for the next 5 years, just say, you know what, the companies that we have, we're gonna
Focus.
put it in a blind trust, and we're just gonna focus on this piece, right? So
Mm,
you don't have the narrative, because as you said, there's a lot of people making accusations, right? And it's not a fair accusation, because
mm,
one of the thing on the debate that was sort of concerning to me is, and that's why I said the political arena is a blood sport. Imagine you standing on the stage and someone is attacking your wife and her
mm,
integrity, right?
mm,
I have to give him credit, because some people wouldn't, their response would have been a
yeah.
little bit different, right? So I think for him,
Yeah.
he just have to figure out how to separate
Yeah.
the whole aspect.
If I was to speak into his wife's situation there, I tend to have come out by saying that it's difficult for her to be separated from the whole issue, because she's not just his wife. On her own standing, she is the Speaker of the House, and secondly, she's an MP, and that is something that the Prime Minister has even said, that she's in her own right as when the whole issue of conflict of interest, and that she shouldn't be that. He said no, it's in her own right. She is the Speaker of the House. She is a member of Parliament, and also she is the wife of the Prime Minister
Yeah, yeah,
as well.
and all of that is correct, because you've had political
Mm,
dynasty. It's more on perception. So, like in
mm,
your business and my business, it's
mm.
all about perception.
Yes.
You might not do anything wrong, but it's just a perception.
I said it earlier, that perception is even stronger than fact.
There you go.
Perception is very powerful.
There you
I,
go.
I, I I broke it down earlier.
But here's the thing: you don't
Yeah,
give your political enemies
ammunition.
a talking points, right? You said, is it the right thing to do? Yes, but then
Yes,
once you have done it, the perception is that there's
yeah,
something there, right? So,
mm.
but we'll see, Silburn.
Yes.
We'll see what happened on the third.
Well, I was working out the time schedule as to if it's going to be feasible to stay up, because I think it's going to be like 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock. One will know in the UK, once the polls are closed at 10 o'clock, the exit poll comes out same time, 10 o'clock. Bam,
Yeah,
landslide.
yeah.
But in America, you don't have that still. I don't these exit
No,
polls, but in the UK it does.
there's exit poll, but depends, because you have California, Midwest.
Yeah.
You have different time zones when poll closes. So the last poll nominal close, which is Hawaii, because
Yes.
Hawaii is like 6, 7 hours, right? So it's
Yes.
gonna be interesting to see. But the one thing that is certain next week, you know what that is? One thing
What's
is certain next week.
the government is gonna win.
One of the two political party will win.
And I always say and I always say this all the while. The government will lose. But guess who is gonna be in the government?
The people.
You lost. The government will lose, but the government will win at the same time.
Yeah, yes.
Whichever way. But
It's gonna
yeah.
be interesting to see how it manifests
Well, Annie
itself. But
Veronica Tate, last word she says, Annie, you just describe a Trump wannabe about Andrew. She's in Veronica Tate is into this Trump wannabe.
no, the thing is that, Veronica, here's my thesis. My grandmother always tell me, you can't hate people you haven't seen.
Yeah.
And the thing that I always refuse to do is I've never met Trump. Actually, that's not true. When I went to college, he did come to this. I didn't meet him, but I was in the same room with him.
Yes.
I've seen Andrew, Mr. Holness. I've seen Mark, but I've never sat and have a conversation with them. So
Mm.
for me, I don't know what a person is behind when the cameras are off, and
Yes.
I just don't know. People say, if you go back to George Bush, you talk about Putin, look into his eyes and see his soul, right? I tend not to assume negative about someone, and I think I would say this: you have two leaders who are vying for Prime Minister of Jamaica,
Yes.
and I do believe Mr. Holness, because of his lived experience, really believe he has a vision for the country.
Mm.
And he believed that he is the best person based on the fact that he has gone through where a lot of Jamaican has, where a little boy from Spanish Town could grow up to be the prime minister of Jamaica. And
Mm.
we don't talk about that a lot, that you could be born in a scheme today in Jamaica and aspire to be the prime minister of Jamaica. And I
Mm.
do believe Mr. Golden, he wants his
Mm.
version of the next thing for Jamaica. He believes. So that's why I said both persons believe strongly. So I don't tend to disparage the two folks
Mm.
because in the end, it doesn't matter who wins. They're going to be the prime minister for all Jamaican. And I
Yes.
think we
Yes.
have a narrative sometimes where we try to take things from other places. The uniqueness of our Jamaican people is that we have our own culture. There's a lot of things that makes us who we are, and I tend not to take
Mm.
things from other places and try to, inject it, because I do believe they said in Jamaica, we little but with Talawa, and a lot of things that we have impacted the world in more ways than you can. If you look at the top 5 sprinter in the world of all time, 3 of them are Jamaica. If women,
Yes.
so if you look at the things that Jamaica has been able to do to the world, that is positive. The thing around the other things going into
Mm.
Jamaica, I tend to, um, I tend not, and even on the policy side, I just
Mm.
don't see anything on the policy side that I could compare what Trump is doing versus what um, you know Mr. Holness is doing. I just don't see it. I think they're two different things.
Well, people might be upset, but Trump had did a what do you call it, executive order, and in his executive order, this is what he did. This man is the only Jamaican. When somebody sent it to me it was the initial election. Somebody, I just kept it right there. This man is the only Jamaican I trust. Anyway, listen, it's early for you over there. It's a good one to wrap up tonight. I want to thank Miss Kamisha Hendricks for coming on tonight from UIC. A lot of work that they need to do, I must say, in communicating their policies, I must say, as well. But the most important thing is that people put themselves forward. And when people put
Yeah.
themselves forward, that's a very impressive thing, and they must give kudos for that as well. You know,
Yeah. And
and
I like their idea of getting public funding for election. It'll level the playing field.
yeah. That's the thing about the funding bit there. But
Yeah.
anyway,
So, all right,
anyway, all the
Mister.
best. We'll talk.
All the best. We'll talk. All
Take
right.
care, O'Neill. God bless, man. Cheers. Bye. Bye. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining tonight. Tonight was a very one of those chilled evening, which I normally have with O'Neill on a Saturday night. Um, we tend to sit back and just chill and have these developed discussions. I believe sometimes what we do, we try to get rid of the noises and just try to analyze and just discuss things. We're going to do more of that. One of the things that we're going to be talking a lot about is regarding artificial intelligence as well. Wait a minute. Artificial intelligence as well. And that is something that I'm going to be talking about. And I'm definitely going to bring in Mr. Michael Ramsey and talk about that. We're just waiting for this election to finish. And once this election is finished, then we will talk more about this as well. But I want to thank you guys for coming on. Thank you, those, Veronica, Belinda, and all different persons. And of course, TikTok awaits. I'll go over TikTok as well and just maybe spend a few moments over TikTok. Without further ado, Godchild, wait them late. So have a good night. Thank you very much, and peace out, and all the best.